I think we're heading towards, and it's a thesis that we have, so I'm biased, but I think it is a correct thesis that building a tech-enabled managed service that takes a group of experts and leverages them um, more than you could if it were, a traditional model. Enable them with automation. Not saying completely automate their job. Saying automate the tedious parts, the boring parts, the parts that would, degrade consistency and efficiency. I think then something that's missing from most managed service providers is transparency. Most people that consume these don't really know what they're doing. So I think that we need to build products as part of that managed service experience where the customer has as much transparency as they want at any given time. Some days they might want more, some days they might want less. Don't overwhelm them with a bunch of noise, but give them the ability to peel back the curtain if they so choose and go deep on what happened over the last week or month or quarter. But maybe, give them the pane of glass that is the roll-up and the summary of just what they need to know in any given day, unless they want to know more, which is very hard to build and design. But I think that's the direction that we should go. I'm very bullish. I'm very optimistic and very trying to remain pragmatic and meet it where it's at today. Keep the things that are a fantasy for tomorrow still a fantasy for tomorrow until they're not, until they're the reality of today, until tomorrow gets here. I think that what I just described, you can do it without AI. And I mean, we at Bishop Fox, we like our first offensive AI demo was at like DEF CON in 2016. We like made a neural network that could do SQL injection and had no idea what, had no strings of what to do for SQL injection commands like a typical tool would. It just knew what the patterns looked like and knew what the end result should be, and it taught itself how to do SQL injection. And we were doing that, years ago at this point. We never used it in production because it wasn't better than having just one of our professionals use a traditional tool that we already had. But there definitely have been leaps and bounds improvements, and especially with generative AI, and especially with being able to prompt an AI that can write its own code from scratch and have agency over how to solve the problem and keep iterating, and also not sleeping or eating or taking bio breaks, and just churning out on this problem until it gets the desired outcome. And you might be human in the loop, giving it more context to steer it in the right direction. I have done quite a bit of experimentation with this, and I'm very bullish on our ability to automate the tedious tasks, amplify the human expertise. And I think what we'll be doing over the next few years is building a bridge between what the machine does and what the human does, and making them better at complementing each other. The CEO of Grammarly said it's something that has been ringing in my head. He said, we should stop calling it artificial intelligence and we should start just calling it augmenting intelligence, because you get into this whole like is it conscious stuff if you start talking about artificial intelligence, and honestly, who cares? But that's not true. I care. But what we're really talking about is augmenting our ability. But so I think that we'll see a lot of investment in that. Sure, that's part of it. I don't think that's all of it, but there is something to when I often use it, I love to put rather than using like a zero shot prompt, I like to use these techniques of like chain of thought, or activating like the latent space of the model to almost put it in like a consultative mode. And I've been using this algorithm that I've recently learned about called a Basher loop, where your prompt and your code and the way you interact with the model, you tell it like, don't just blurt out the first answer. That's almost like how, like, if I were to ask you something right now, you might just go with your gut and blurt out an answer. And that's kind of what like simple prompting does to in these chatbots. If I told you like, slow down, like I don't need your answer right away. This is a tough task. Like, let's really think about this. And I want you to like brainstorm, hypothesize, search, and maybe go out to the internet and do some searching and some reading, ingest that into your context window, and then refine your answer and print out all the questions you asked yourself along the way. Give me transparency into like why and you answered what you did and how you solved this problem. And then I'll have more confidence that I even trust that I got a valid answer. And this technique is much superior. And there's all kind of other algorithms that researchers are publishing where they're creating a council of different LLMs that have different expertise, and then like an overlord that's like delegating tasks to them, kind of like a middle manager. And then it like assigns different tasks, and then it aggregates the results, and it kind of decides if it accomplished the task. This even showed these algorithms showed a much better performance on things like crossword puzzles, which are kind of tricky. Like the New York Times crossword puzzle, pretty tricky. And to have a bot be able to do that, it was able to do it better with using these algorithms. I do think it is. I think it's a leapfrog for everything. It's like electricity. It's not useful. I do think it is an inflection point in technology that is on the scale of the internet itself. Definitely more so than cloud, and I do maybe even industrial revolution level of, because like what we just saw in the last year was someone just built the best user interface for an algorithm that already existed that anyone had ever seen, and then we saw a fire get lit under all of the major tech companies and a fire in the open source community to innovate on this. And we're seeing an immense amount of time and energy go into making this more usable and more capable. And at the end of the day, it's just a tool, in the same way that like electricity is a tool. And I think that in security, every single task is up for optimization. I'll just go with like some things that gave me chills when I did it. It was stuff that it was just tasks that I had done in the past. Like I have this technique for like go out to Shodan or go out to all the sources of internet scan data. Go get me every instance of this particular technology. Go exploit. Go see if any are vulnerable to this misconfiguration, and then download the sensitive information if it is, and then search through that sensitive information for secrets. That used to take me so much time to do manually. And whenever I used AutoGen to the Microsoft framework for, which is, it's like a combination. Imagine it's like a chatbot meets something that can write its own code, can write code from scratch to solve tasks, combined with something that reflects on itself and says like, did I achieve the task? Or did the code not work? I will go debug it until it does work. And then I will ask my human operator to give me feedback on if I'm close to achieving what they asked me to do. And I basically took that task that used to take me so much time to do manually and got the bot to do it. And I was like, wow. And I'm also like, I'm just so fascinated when I'm using things like Copilot now. I'm like, how much of my life did I spend trying to find that missing curly bracket or that like syntax error in the code? I'm just like tab completing. Like I was following along with a YouTube video on how to build some things with AI, and I was able to like, used to have to like pause, go back, rewatch, because I like to type it out with them so that I learn and remember. But I was able to like basically Copilot tab complete as this person was talking and tweak a few things, and then have a working proof of concept of that code in 10 minutes. And like, there's been so many things that even the other day I was in a meeting and we were talking about new visualizations for product. And I just asked ChatGPT to make me, what are some good visualizations for this topic? Go make me the code to render those in a browser, and then just populate them with data, sample data for like application security testing. And it did. And I was like, I went from idea to 10 minutes later having a charts and graphs to tell a story of like, what if we did it like this? Like that feels like a superpower to me. It's definitely a superpower. I can't draw, but I can generate art now. I can't make music, but I can generate music now. I have a lot of ideas, but I don't feel like I'm a very good writer, but I can get a draft. I can write, I can draft, and then I can also like change my tone. I can change my orientation. I can change like things that like would have taken me countless hours manually drudge through. I've been doing like creative writing exercises, like, so it's definitely given me the feeling of having superpowers that I didn't have last year. And to where we're going next, I've been going back and rewatching a lot of sci-fi movies. I went back and rewatched Blade Runner 2049 is only a couple of decades away. Maybe they need to move that up to Blade Runner 2029. And then I'm trying to think, like, which is our ideal dystopian future or ideal sci-fi future. Actually, I was talking to someone about that, and we decided Firefly is our ideal outcome. We'll just go be space pirates and we'll all speak Mandarin and English, and we'll have to just worry about what planet we're going to go colonize and watch out for space pirates. I think it's overhyped. I think like these models are trained on data that's on the internet, and that means if you're worried about extracting some information from it, that information is already on the internet. And and I was reflecting on how, like, the Unabomber taught himself how to make bombs. He didn't have ChatGPT. He was finding books and manuals and doing experiments and figuring it out. And he was that motivated to do it. And if that's your threat actor, it doesn't matter if they have ChatGPT or not, they're going to figure it out. But I do think that a big topic that we're going to have to focus on is transparency and explainability. If we're going to use these tools and we're going to rely on them, we need to know how they arrived at the decision that they did. We need to know, we need to explain who, like, even might want to understand things like who funded this model, who built this model, who maintains this model, what data went into this model, what biases might it have. There's talk of doing like nutrition style labels on models to be like, this, the user and the consumer is going to have to watch what they eat first and foremost. Like, I don't trust the government to do a good job of this, at least in the initial phase. I hope that they do it in a way that doesn't stifle innovation in the private market. And then another thing that I think is really important is that I hope that we don't dissuade the people that are building these things to bring them to developing countries as soon as possible and help the rest of the world level up and not get left in the dust. And I think that whatever policies the government makes should encourage us to take these technologies to places so that they can start embracing a world where they exist sooner rather than later.